Election Day is here, and it could be the most consequential vote in modern American history. The stakes? Higher than ever. Donald Trump, who stands with a felony conviction, and Kamala Harris, who ascended to the top of the ticket only months ago after Joe Biden's unexpected withdrawal. Today, America decides between two visions of its future, and the choice could not be more stark. So buckle up as we dive into the high stakes, the strategies, the drama, and the voices shaping this historic decision. Today isn't just about selecting a leader, it's about choosing the direction of the country. As polls open across the East Coast, the nation holds its breath. This isn't just another election. It's a moment that feels bigger, an event embedded in the collective consciousness of a politically charged America. In recent memory, few presidential races have been so extraordinary, with candidates as sharply contrasting as Donald Trump and Kamala Harris, each embodying different visions of America's future. Each candidate's path to this moment has been marked by dramatic twists and controversies that have underscored the stakes of this election. Donald Trump, a figure who has dominated political discourse for nearly a decade, comes to Election Day with the weight of a felony conviction and an assassination attempt looming over his campaign. His journey has been anything but typical, and today his supporters and critics alike wonder if this is his last shot at the presidency. On the other hand, Kamala Harris, who assumed the top spot on the Democratic ticket just over 3 months ago after President Biden's unexpected step aside, represents a new chapter for many, a fresh voice, but one fraught with its own complexities. As Election Day dawned, Trump held a rally in Grand Rapids, Michigan, a final push that may represent his last appearance on a campaign stage. He continued with his now familiar approach, using fiery rhetoric to rile up his base, particularly targeting his opponents with blunt criticism. His words were as scathing as ever, describing Harris and others in the Democratic leadership as corrupt, dishonest, and dangerous for the country. By casting his opponents in this light, Trump appeals directly to his followers' sense of urgency and frames himself as the only figure strong enough to counter what he paints as a corrupt political system. However, Trump's tone may have alienated as many voters as it has mobilized. With his focus on labeling Harris as low IQ and unfit, he appealed to those who resonate with his straight-talking style, but likely turned away those craving a more unifying voice. This was not just a rally, it was a demonstration of Trump's commitment to his narrative of us versus them, which has become a defining characteristic of his political identity. Meanwhile, Kamala Harris chose a more restrained and optimistic approach in Philadelphia, joined by high-profile figures like Lady Gaga and Oprah. These choices were as much about symbolism as they were about message. Standing on the famous Rocky Steps, Harris channeled the spirit of the underdog, emphasizing themes of unity, resilience, and overcoming adversity. Her words resonated with a message of hope, a stark contrast to Trump's dire warnings and personal attacks. Harris's rhetoric, celebrating progress, diversity, and shared purpose, seeks to build bridges, aiming to inspire rather than incite. By positioning herself this way, Harris is attempting to broaden her appeal and assure the nation that under her leadership, America can heal and move forward. Her decision not to mention Trump by name during this final stretch suggests a strategy of rising above the fray, opting instead to focus on an aspirational vision of America. This approach signals a calculated gamble. Harris is betting that American voters are ready to embrace positivity over fear and division. Now that voting is underway, journalists and analysts weigh in on the campaign's closing strategies, offering insights that may be essential to understanding the day's unfolding events. Alex Thompson of Axios reports an air of cautious optimism within the Harris camp. While her team is bracing for a close race, they hold faith that the blue wall, key states that Biden carried in the 2020, will hold strong. For them, it's not a question of winning in a landslide, but about securing enough ground to win decisively. They're betting on demographics, turnout, and key voting blocks, such as Black voters in urban centers, to make the difference. Brad Todd, a Republican strategist, provides a counter-narrative, emphasizing that the Democrats have underperformed in early voting. He argues that while Republicans may have exhausted some of their rural strongholds, they've consistently shown strong voter turnout. According to him, the Democrats will need to outperform previous election cycles if they hope to swing certain battleground states in their favor. Bakari Sellers, a former South Carolina state representative, offers a different perspective, expressing confidence that urban Democratic voters will show up in record numbers. For Democrats, critical cities like Atlanta, Philadelphia, and Detroit are seen as the pillars of the blue wall, and they're counting on these urban centers to make up for Republican dominance in rural areas. As we continue to monitor the situation, all eyes are on battleground states like Pennsylvania, Georgia, and North Carolina, where razor-thin margins could decide the election. In Georgia, the Democrats are buoyed by a surge in black voter turnout, and they're optimistic that this could be enough to tip the scales. Yet without figures like Stacey Abrams or Raphael Warnock on the ballot, Democrats are contending with the possibility of lower enthusiasm among some segments of the black community, a critical factor that could influence the outcome. Meanwhile, Pennsylvania's Senate race between Dave McCormick and the Democratic challenger is serving as a proxy for the broader presidential contest. The state is a microcosm of the nation's political divide, and any shifts here could be indicative of broader trends. Trump's last-minute efforts to appeal to working-class voters in the state underscores his recognition of Pennsylvania's significance. But whether that late push will resonate enough to swing the state remains a question mark. As Election Day proceeds, each campaign's fate hangs in the balance. Polls across the country remain open, and the nation watches, waiting for the first hints of which way the electorate is leaning. The closing hours are filled with anxiety, as both sides mobilize every available resource to get their supporters to the polls. For the Harris campaign, it's about locking in support from key demographics and maintaining enthusiasm in urban centers. For Trump, it's about ensuring that his rural and suburban bases turn out in unprecedented numbers. These final moments, with last-minute appeals and grassroots efforts, underscore the significance of voter turnout, which may ultimately determine the victor. In these last hours, America's choice isn't just between two candidates. It's between two visions of what the country stands for. The stakes are clear, and the outcome, whatever it may be, will shape the nation's path for years to come. This is a day that will live in the history books, and we're here to cover it, analyzing each development, each unexpected twist as it unfolds. Thanks for joining Focal Point. We'll keep you updated as the results roll in, breaking down what each shift means for the future. If you found this analysis insightful, subscribe and stay with us as we continue our journey through the most critical election of our time. This is America's choice, and it's a choice that will reverberate for generations.